So good morning, everybody. It's a pleasure to see you bright and early to discuss the Global Data Platform. I have a bit of an overview, a 15-minute overview. Not everybody may be aware of what's the Global Platform, what it does, how it operates. I'll give you a bit of an overview of why it started, what's the objectives. And today what we're hoping is to have a discussion with you to look at the business model. After that, we'll have Mark, who will give you, I think he can do a live demo if people are interested, but he'll give you some specific examples of what can be done with the platform. Ronald will discuss how the UN is helping to shape the platform and how they think and how they are supporting it. And then we have a number of partners who are saying, what's the benefit for them on joining the platform? What does it mean? And once we've done all the presentation, then that's where I would open the floor and ask if anybody has questions, if they, or if they want to ask anybody of one of the members here, if that's okay with everybody. So the Global Working Group for Data and Official Statistics was created at the Statistical Commission in 2014. The purpose behind that was to help to create a vision, directions, a sense of coordination for the use of big data, new data sets, as part of official statistics and that included the compilation of the Sustainable Development Goals. It included a number of views of some of the new data sources and try to see how can they be leveraged, how can they help to support national statistics organizations or offices to modernize themselves and respond to data needs for disaggregation, for more timely information in a different way than traditionally using surveys and admin data. Not meant necessarily to replace exactly surveys. It may be to complement, to be integrated with other data sources, but that's where they created the Global Working Group on Big Data. And if you see at the middle, so you have the Global Working Group on Big Data. How the Global Work on Big Data is working, it's actually having a number of task teams. Right now, we have task team based on data sources, whether it's using satellite imagery, whether it's using scanner data, whether it's using retail data, whether it's using mobile phone applications, social media. There's been task teams that have been created. Each task team is responsible for a project, and there are aspects such as satellite data where actually we have sub-teams. We have use of satellite data for agriculture, use of satellite data for environment statistics. There's different use to these things. And the task teams are chaired by a country usually, and they are supported by a number of other working members who are from different countries. And we have Niels Blug here from Denmark, who's kind of overseeing all the task team, making sure that we're making progress on the different uses of the big data data sources. So if you have any questions on actual membership, if you're thinking that you could be involved in the task team, if you think you wanted to be participating in something, after the session, I'm sure Niels will be happy to respond to any requests you may have. One of the challenges we realize is that as you're using big data, sometimes you may need more space, more computing space. You may need high computing capability. Some of the new data sets are huge in terms of volume, in terms of space requirement, in terms of IT infrastructure, which led to the discussion or the need of, do we need some environment that would facilitate and support the use of some of the big data sources, which is why there's been a group that has been created on the Global Data Platform. The UK has taken the leadership on that global platform. We used to call it Global Data Platform. So if you've seen some of the previous discussions on the UN Statistical Commission, when we've talked about the Global Data Platform, well, acronym is kind of GDP, which is something used for official statistics for a different meaning. So we've changed the name to call it UN Global Platform. Global Data Platform, UN Global Platform, the same thing, just renamed it to make it less confusing for the community as large. Under the global platform, there's 3 subgroups. There's a technical delivery board, there's a technical support group, and there's a legal and ethics board. And they've been working on creating a platform, and I'll talk about the platform a bit more on the next slide. To be able to showcase the information, there's a series of big data conferences. The next one would be in Kigali in Rwanda in May, early May.
Very early May.
some of the conferences on big data have actually been joined to the World Data Forum because we felt let's try to combine the efforts and let's try to reach the community once with a number of applications. But there's conferences, there's events to try to support the work. And of course, there's the Bureau, the UN Bureau, who supports the work. So what is the platform exactly? Well, the Global Digital Platform is an environment, a digital environment to enable collaboration for trusted users to exchange trusted data using trusted methods, facilitating trusted learning between trusted partners. So if you haven't heard it yet, I've heard use the word trusted 5 times. And part of the issue as we're working with big data is that there's a lot of information. What we're finding is that a number of statistics are now produced in a timely manner. Not necessarily with the quality standards and some of the approaches that would be used with official statistics. Sometimes it may be good enough and that may be relevant. Sometimes it may be misleading. And so we wanted to create an environment where within a community that has similar principles, and we all adhere to the UN fundamental principles of official statistics, that we could create a community where we knew that some of the algorithms had been vetted, that some of the environments were checked, that some of the methods were there. And part of the way to ensure trust is to be in an open environment. And so this is where there would be a process. This is why we have a subgroup on ethics, on legal, to make sure that not everything is done there, that there's a bit of a governance, a light governance that is there. Many countries are in the various test teams, and this is part of what we've put on the Global Data Platform, has been actually some of the work of the task teams. But the UK has taken a leadership group in building the environment, and I'd like to congratulate Heather Savory, who unfortunately couldn't be there today. She asked me to be speaking on her behalf, and I'm Céline Michaud from Statistics Canada, and Canada is heading 2 task teams. So we've put some of the data on the Global Data Platform. So we know the environment well, but a lot of the development work and the credit should be given to our UK colleagues who've done a lot of great work on this. And the goal of the platform is to present a proof of concept by March next year to the UN Statistical Commission and try to see, do thumbs up or thumbs down? Do we want to continue? Is it seem to deliver on what we have initially proposed? The platform would have a number of partners, and here you have, I'm not sure if you can see the table, but the platform is meant to be an environment where we can work collaboratively with the public sector, with the civil society, with academia, with the private sector, and with a group of donors. And each, I've tried to define the composition of each of the group. Each have a contribution. Each would probably benefit from the platform, but some of these contribution benefits are different from different partners. And so we've started to load some things on the Global Data Platform, and Mark will be able to give you some examples of what it has done so far. What I want to discuss with you today is propose a bit of the model options of what we've been thinking about how it could operate, and I'm hoping to get feedback from you on are there things that we need to change, modify slightly to respond to our collective needs. So it has started with we're assuming that the United Nations would be involved in the definition of the governance, in the definition of standards, in definition of compliance, in terms of quality assurance, the trust mechanisms. But under this, we think that a platform like that, the platform, I should have said before, the platform is not one environment that has all databases. It's actually a linked environment, a linked digital environment that links to different applications that are done by trusted users and that we know that we can link for official statistics. And so in that context, you do need somebody who makes these linkages, who looks at the access model, who supports the governance, who supports the provision of material. And so under the UN, we think that there needs to be a group, we call it the UN Global Platform Organization, that would be a logistical group to actually support the maintenance of that platform. Ideally, on that group, we believe there should be regional research hubs. The Netherlands has been doing a number of great things in terms of scanner, and some of the work that has been done by other countries has been based on what has been done by the Netherlands. The OECD has some groups. There's a number of UN working group on different platforms. They could all be partners as part of a regional hub so that the platform is not governing all the application. The platform just supports the integration of different environments to facilitate the acceleration of the innovation for all partners. But it's not necessarily controlling everything. It would use the regional research hubs as links to the platform so that the platform always remains relevant, that it uses the latest methods and tools. And then under this, there would be United Nations Global Digital Platform. There's the platform by itself, and then there's the different actors that would be working with the platform. To support that platform, we do need somebody who actually has the ownership to make it work, as I said, to give the emails and things like, to give the access, to give the control. To look at the business partners that might be there. The platform will work only if, as a group, as a collective, we use the platform. And what would be that organization is what we're looking for, your input today. We've looked at 6 possible models of options for an organization that would actually support the platform. It could be a partnership between the UN Statistical Division and a new charitable organization. Could be a partnership between the UN and an established charity organization. It could be a public ownership by the UN. It could be a public ownership by one statistical office. It could be wholly owned by a statistical office, or it could be a government company. These are the 6 models of maybe an entity that could help to run the platform. I've put in bold the three options that we think are more likely, or that as a group, we have a working group on the global platform, and that's kind of the first 3 are the 3 that we prefer. Part of it because it's not clear that one organization within one country would meet the collective goals or would be perceived as meeting the collective goals. In practice, it can happen, but there may be an issue of perception. So the 3 first options of having an organization that is either partnered by a charity and by the UN may help to achieve the objective of the platform. And the objective is really to help facilitate quickly innovation, adoption of new methods, adoption of new tools, facilitate learnings for different countries. So option 1, 2, and 3 might be better leverage. Between 1, 2, and 3, one of the things we're hoping with the platform is that you do need funding. Right now, some charities are able to leverage private sector funding, and we have had some of the private sector funding right now in terms of cloud credits to be able to develop the platform. So sometimes the funding comes as direct money, but sometimes there's a donor organization that have been providing funding, and they've been providing either funding for a specific project, they believe into learning in a specific aspect, and they'll give funding to have a working group working on something. Sometimes it's been cloud credits, it's been application, it's been tools, it's been research and methods that they've done that they're willing to offer to the community for all of us to use that infrastructure. And so so because of that, charity do have the opportunity to give some credits, to give some deductions. So we think that 1 or 2, the partnership between UNSD, to give the standards, to give the compliance, to have that global mandate might be a better option. But it could be publicly owned by the UN. And then the choice between a new charitable organization and establishable charitable organization, well, when there's an established charitable organization, they may already have a relationship, they may already have fundraising activities, they may already have staff who can support a platform. A new one would have maybe more flexibility in terms of defining the scope, the mandate, the partners. So I think 1 or 2 could be 2 viable options that could be looked at. There's been an option, we have provided a background document for you to read. In there, we are talking about possibly having no research hubs or research hubs. We do believe, however, that having research hubs would actually be the way to operate the platform. It's hard for one single entity to look at all the possible applications, to respond to all the needs. And Somebody yesterday at lunchtime seminar on the big data was asking, is big data used yet? And is it used in production? And it is used yet. It is used in production. Is it fully used in production? Is it completely replacing a survey? Maybe not. Often it's the integration of some of the big data sources with other sources of information that actually are leading to the promising results. In Canada, we have replaced one of our agriculture survey by a mix of satellite imagery, agroclimatic information, and some previous survey information to validate the models. We've put the models on the global data platform for anybody to use. It's not clear that the weather we have in Canada is necessarily applicable to all of you in your specific countries. We have tons of snow right now, and I know it might not be the case in all your regions. So the actual model of how to translate that specific satellite image and the kind of crops that is actually grown in each of the countries, it's not used that it's necessarily transferable. You may need to develop something for your own specific needs, but we do think that the method, the approach we've used for developing this could be replicated by others. And we're seeing more and more the development of vegetation index. We're seeing more and more the use of some of these data sources in other applications. So the plan behind that would be that there are things that are loaded in the platform that can be used by others. And we think it could support the work of other groups. And throughout this session, I'm looking at the business statistics seminar yesterday where there were discussion on some of the trade data. Well, we're starting to see, can there be confidential, anonymized data, trade data that could be there? We'll have to see how it would work. Likely, there would be zones in the platform, and trusted users doesn't mean you trust everybody with everything all the time. There could be different zones of trusted user, and as you're establishing the trust, you have access to maybe a bit more. So we're still working on some of the details, but the purpose of today's presentation is to gauge the interest and trying to see where do you see the platform possibly going. So without further ado, then I'll leave the floor to Mark to showcase a bit what the platform could be.
It's gone this time. We'll try again. That's better. So morning, I'm Mark Craddock from the Office of National Statistics. I'm a technologist, so I'm going to talk a bit about the services and the technology we put in the digital platform, and a little bit about the business case that we've put together and why the platform business model is different than other business models. Oh, let me just go to the slide. Right, so the difference with the platform business model is it's there to support the ecosystem and the connections between consumers, providers, suppliers of the platform. So we've built services that allow the publication of methods, algorithms, code to share and to collaborate on the platform, and by allowing different consumers, providers to connect with each other, that provides the power of the platform. So we'll always be able to innovate. We'll always take the innovation from the different suppliers and providers in the platform, and that always leads to continued evolution of the platform. So the platform business model is way more sustainable than normal pipeline business models or project-based models. So we see in the past, projects or new organizations get donated money, and after 2 years, it's not sustainable, and it kind of slowly dies. But with the platform business model, it allows the innovation to exist. We have multiple providers, multiple suppliers, all connecting, finding different value models. So it could be, they do it for public good. They join it for marketing. It could be, I always say if you put one person into the platform to support it, you get the benefit of at least 20 people out. That's what we're seeing on the technology side at the moment. And and overall, what does this mean for the platform organization? I think this is a good opportunity for a tweet, actually, if anybody tweets. Yeah. So the rate of innovation is no longer dependent on the size of the platform. It's dependent on the network and the connectivity between the people and the consumers of the platform. So, you know, the bigger the platform gets, the more innovative, efficient, and focused it becomes. And that's the benefit of a platform business model. So I'll now go on to the technology and the services we've put into the platform. So I'll quickly do this. So we've got some large global data sets. So we've got 3 large global data sets. We've got ADS-B flight records. So that's every flight transponder transmits a radio frequency saying, you know, this is where the plane is, this is where it's going, this is about the details about the plane. We've got 100 billion records in the platform today, and that's increasing by about 3 million events a second. We've got 40 million to 80 million records, AIS records a day, so that's ships broadcast their location, where they are, where they're going. That's streamed into the platform, about 40 to 80 million records a day into the platform, and we have the tools and techniques to analyze that data. And we have some task teams looking at this data used for trade statistics, economic indicators. We have access to the satellite imagery, so we've got the common open source Landsat and Sentinel imagery, plus we've also got Tribes of Planet and Airbus to access the high resolution commercial imagery. Let's quickly about the AIS data. You know, you can use that using Jupyter notebooks or hubs to analyze that data. Same with the ADS-B data. We've also got a range of services in the platform. So we've got the trusted method service. So you can take a piece of code, you can publish it into the platform. It immediately turns it into a function or an API. Those can be chained together to make more complicated methods if required. We've got an Earth observation service, so you can analyze, so you can observe the Earth. You can do the common vegetation index, water index, bare soil indexes. Those services are in the platform using those satellite imagery. We've got a developer service that allows you to collaborate globally on developing code and algorithms within the platform. We've got the AIS, we've got the location analytics service, so that allows you to analyze anything that moves. So at the moment, you can analyze the area, the flight, and the ship data, and that allows you to do very complex algorithms and calculations against location-based data. So in a traditional database, it may take 4 hours to run the query. Within the platform, it takes 4 milliseconds to run these queries. So we've got those capabilities, and we've got this global billing capability. So these are live services that are now. If you can go in, if you contact me, we can get access to you, or if you email, contact us at officialstatistics.org. So we've got the trusted method service, the Earth observation service, location analytics service, the developer service. We've also got an operations service, so that's a live dashboard of our services and how they perform globally. So you can see, how long it takes to respond to load those services in your region. We've got a help desk service, and we've also got this new marketplace that the minimal viable product, the alpha, was finished yesterday. So I'll quickly give you a demo of the marketplace. So the marketplace allows us to publish, the data collaboratives, the data sets, the methods, the learning material, the training, the workshops, the services, and the trusted partners that we work with. So if I just quickly show you the marketplace. So you can go to marketplace.officialstatistics.org now. It's live, it's there, and this allows us to search the data. You can look at collaborative data sets, methods, and learnings that are available in the UN Global Platform. You can look at the Earth observation service. You can see the data sets that are available. You can sign up to the community. You can search for algorithms, methods, partners by specific SDG. So we can, if I pick a random one, so clean water. So there we've got a data collaborative on analyzing social media, conversations, public sanitation. Yep, I'm not quite sure what that one is. Yeah. So, and you can find the technical information about the data set, the algorithm, the method, the partner, the service, and you can even leave feedback if you like. And all these are kind of linked together, so you can start browsing around the site. You can find data. You can kind of if you're looking for a big data set, you may find out there's data collaboratives that are already using that data, so then you can find out what those big data sets. You can even find the contacts for those task teams, the data collaboratives. You can filter by SDG, So if we look at the collaboratives that are in the, we can search by web scraping data collaboratives to start. If we look at the data sets, if we look at the SDGs, we can filter by SDG. So I greatly find one. So poverty. So on the left-hand side, we can filter the data, the algorithms, the methodologies, the partners by SDG. So we've only just put the alpha servers up there in the last few days. We're still doing lots of work on that. If you've got anything you'd like listed in the marketplace, email marketplace@officialstatistics.org. If you'd like to know more, you can find me over the next couple of days. But that's the kind of where we are with the marketplace. And one important thing we also have in the platform is the global billing. So this, because the global platform sits on top of the 4 large cloud providers, so Microsoft, Amazon, Google, and Alibaba. So we can run services in any of the regions, continents. We also have the capability of global billing, so we can track services by task, by project, by task team, data collaborative globally, and that allows us to get an itemized bill. So if you want to donate or if you want to ensure funds are allocated to a particular project in a particular region, we can pretty much guarantee those funds will be spent on those infrastructure services in the cloud within the global platform, and we can give you an audit trail, an itemized bill if required. So I think that's all from me.
Thank you.
And then Ronald. And over to Ronald.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'm particularly happy this morning to be able to present what we call the UN Global Platform. I want to emphasize a few things. So this is a platform for our community, so for the community of official statistics, right? This comes from the creation 5 years ago, as Sylvie indicated, under the Statistical Commission of this global working group. The global working group is country-driven, right? So it is the co-chairs currently Denmark and the UK. Sylvie Michaud, Statistics Canada, very much involved. We have a bureau of 10, including also the Netherlands, Colombia, UAE, Indonesia, Mexico, the African Development Bank, UNECE, Eurostat, and UNSD. And that's just the bureau, right? So the group itself is about, I think, 28 countries and 16 international organizations. And this platform is for the community, right? For the whole community, not even beyond these 44. And the reason why we also call this here like moving forward together. This is, by the way, if you go to officialstatistics.org on the internet, this is what you will see, right? Moving forward together is moving all of these statistical institutes forward together. It's not only for developed countries. This is definitely for all countries, developing countries in all around the world. We're going to have, as Sylvie indicated, the next conference of this group in Kigali, in Africa, to show that these kinds of new methods can also work in Africa. So the global platform, Sylvie and Mark already indicated this in some detail. We could go on to the platform also from our side. If we want to do this under task teams and projects, we can go where there's an entrance to the platform, we can define our projects, and we can start working together. That's what we do within the task teams under the Global Working Group. So this is as what Mark was showing on the marketplace, that those are projects that have been done elsewhere in the world, which are now showcased on the platform. We can develop from scratch on a certain area if you are interested in trying to develop certain kinds of capabilities to do this on the platform within our community of official statistics, together with all the stakeholders, as Sylvie rightly indicated. the new way of working for our community is not just do it all by ourselves. No, we reach out. We have a lot of private sector, academia, research institutes, civil society, who like to work with us, and I think we should work with them to move forward. So why is this platform important? Now, it's from the same principle why we started the whole global working group, is that data innovation is moving fast, and I think that our community is not moving fast enough in using new methods and new data sources. It's difficult for individual officers to do this by themselves. Some of them do. I mean, the more developed countries are doing this, but it is better if we could do this together, right? For one is that you can compare notes, you can test methods together, and you can move faster together. And I think that this development in faster pace is a really important point. So one of these points also is that currently the UK has set this up, right, with global data sets, common methods, and shared services. There is a state-of-the-art technology which we can use together. But the point which we are making today is that it's still in a test phase, but we want to do this for the longer term as well. And how can we sustain a system as it is done now? So the current services, they are available. They will be maintained over this year. But after March next year, we have to come up with a sustainable model. That was the input of the background document, which is at the website currently. The platform is there to innovate together, to develop new methods. It's also to learn together. I think one of the big advantages of this cloud server environment is that you can run training all around the world on that same platform, learning new methods together on this. So I think both this innovation and the learning aspect is really important. The next step from the point of view of the process is that we are now at the point that we are testing projects and so forth during this year, and we're testing this model going forward. And my pitch to you today is that I think it can only be sustained if this is an institute. And whatever the name is, if it's called Global Platform Institute, but it is an institute where we have fully dedicated staff who are maintaining the system, who are attracting funding, who are maintaining services. And the models that were sketched by Sylvie is under the UN flag. So there is some part of it is UN, so that we can make sure that everybody has equal access to this environment. But it is also maintained by a professional group. So there has to be a part there which is attracting funding, but it's maintaining the services. It's capable of providing the technical services, and it will ensure that there is a lot of research going on in this marketplace. So my pitch, and I will stop here, is that think about it, that this is a unique, I think, moment in time where the community of official statistics can actually have an institute for data innovation. Mark showed that this is a reality, right? It's not something that we have to start from scratch. It's there. But the question now is, how can we develop it in something that will be sustained over time? What's the perfect model for this? Who's going to help out in bringing this model to life? Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have three partners. So Gemma, I'll start with you.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation to be here today. My name is Gemma van Hougen. I'm the Director of the Statistics Division in ESCAP, the Asia and Pacific region. I'd just like to make a few comments here today. I've been asked to give a perspective from a UN system view. I feel very inadequate about being able to give a view from the UN system because I've only been in the UN system for about 7 months, And I'm also based in a regional commission rather than in a global entity. But nevertheless, I'll give you, I think, 3 insights here. I think we need to go back and work out, well, what is the value here? And the value should be driving the business model. And I really like how this platform is trying to deliver trusted data, trusted methods, trusted learnings, and trusted partners. And as the UN, and as Ronald has said, we're here to serve you, member states, apolitically, without favour, across those dimensions. And in our region, in Asia Pacific, our member states are definitely looking to make use of a range of data sources. So having a platform where this trusted data exists and we can access it is high value. Also having a platform where we can access trusted methods, be they methods for how to produce crop statistics, or be they methods on how to confidentialise trade statistics, they are definitely services that our region is looking for. And to be able to learn from trusted learners, definitely that is part of the model. But I'm not sure if I need a regional dimension to a global platform. More and more these issues, when you start looking through the lens of like the high-level group on modernisation and things like that, we all, wherever we're based in the world, we need to be able to confidentialise data or access the same data set. So to me here, the business model that has a regional dimension on it, I don't know if it adds a complexity that's necessary. And I think simplicity, I like the idea of a global data platform, not a regional data platform. Yesterday we had a session on the use of non-traditional methods, and the New Zealand Chief Statistician and Data Steward, Liz McPherson, who's here in the room today, she spoke about what's happening in New Zealand, which is part of the Asia Pacific region, so I'm happy to share it to you here. And Statistics New Zealand have built something called the IDI, the Integrated Data Infrastructure. And it's proving to be a very useful service. I'm sorry if I'm paraphrasing you the wrong way here, Liz, but it's proving to be a very useful service for delivering on their government's mandate to make data available, accessible, usable in an efficient and trusted way. And so data owners are coming to Statistics New Zealand as a data steward. So to me here, this global data platform, actually I quite like the acronym GDP. You know, as we all know, being a non-economist, we know the economists get a lot of attractions with that GDP phrase. I think this is an alternative measure of progress, having a global data platform, because it may bring, it's a service that data providers might want to use. So offering as a global data steward, the global data platform could become the global data steward platform. And so to me, the business model needs to enable the people with data to want to come and use the platform, to actually use the not just the technology, but the partnership, the learnings, and so on. And in particular, coming back to the UN, we've got to think about why would the UN partners want to come and use the global platform? So why would the member states want to use it? But why would the UN want to use it? So I think we need to think about why would we need to reach out and say, well, UNICEF or UNED or the WHO or UNCTAD, what do you need in this business model? And it may be some provenance issues. It might need some branding. I don't know what it is, but we need to think about why do we do that. And that turns me to my third reason. We're seeing already in the statistical community and wider the development of the federated information system of SDG data hubs. Now, this is proving to be a good federated system of data repositories for indicators, in a sense. To me, this is the global data platform is for our data, our microdata, in a way. And so this could become the one-stop shop for microdata, just like we hope the federated information system becomes the one-stop shop for SDG indicators. And that's a sort of across sector, across time, across space. So to me, again, the business model then has to facilitate not necessarily a regional dimension, but a way of accessing the microdata in a way that we can do that cross-comparison of issues So to me, something to be thinking about. We just saw from Mark there that you can go in and look at it through the 17 SDGs. But maybe we need to sort of be looking at this through sort of the next level up, through data around the planet, data about prosperity, data about peace, data about people. If you go back to the 2030 agenda, it was those 4 Ps. Because what we need to do, and our policymakers actually are looking for evidence to answer these so-called wicked problems, which are no longer economic, they're no longer just within the social domain, they're no longer just within the environmental domain. And then my final comment is, again, for those of you who are at the Financing for Development high-level segment on Monday afternoon, I think it was Laura who spoke. She gave us really good insights to basically say what do the policymakers need, and data is an attractive commodity, not just data and statistics. So I notice you're on an official statistics.org website here, but I think we've got to actually look beyond just our own official statistics world, and in fact the world is looking for data and statistics. And so this again, I'll draw us back to the experience of what's happening in New Zealand, where we have a chief statistician and chief data steward, or government statistician and chief data steward. So to me here, the global data platform, the UN has actually got an opportunity here not only to provide a global data platform for data, but also a global data platform for statistics, which is more like the federated information system. So thank you very much. I think it's a very exciting development. Thank you.
Then I'll ask Oliver next.
Thank you very much. I'm lucky that I'm sitting between 2 people that sort of have educated me a lot about the new GDP, this global partnership. First of all, my name is Oliver Chinganya. I'm the director of the African Center for Statistics at the United Nations Economic Commission in Africa, based in Addis Ababa. I'm not going to deal with what has already been well articulated by Gemma in terms of the benefits of these. But I do see quite a lot of advantages if this thing were to be set up and to meet also its objectives. I think what I see here is perhaps ensuring that it is data that is available and accessible by many from different sectors without having to limit it to a certain set of people. Also, the issue of having common methods, I think that will be part of what will be put on this platform, and ensure that it's also looked at by different people. But I also see the issues around the governance of common data, which I think to a very large extent also Gemma mentioned about it in terms of what kind of framework will govern the data that goes on to this platform, and of course the issue of about working with the different areas of the trusted partners, sources, data, and so forth and so forth. Those are critical. However, I serve a region that is seriously constrained and challenged in terms of capacity. And I think it's just not Africa, but also other regions, on the globe that are seriously challenged. And the question I ask myself is that, given the challenges that they have, that even their national statistical systems are very, very weak, and we are coming up with all these beautiful things that we want to promote, which are very useful, including the GDP, the global partnership platform that we're talking about. How are they going to cope? How are they going to deal with these things, with the weaker systems? And I say that's one area that we need to be addressed. So I'm glad that we're having this discussion coming up in the first week of May in Africa, on the big data. Sort of begin to think what would be the alternative ways of accessing data other than the normal traditional sources that we use. How can we leverage on the big data? This is not to say that this work is not already going on in a number of countries. A number of countries are already doing some work around that. But how do they fully, tap on their potential and ensure that they're able to benefit from all these technologies? So what I really see here is perhaps one of the things that the global partnership, the global platform will have to do, and once it's got all the resources and the governance arrangement are set aside, is that what kind of capacity do we need to provide to countries that are constrained or have challenges in terms of taking this work forward. Otherwise, they will remain in a situation where they are all the time running to, playing catch-up, because the others that are about 10 meters away, and then everyone else is trying to catch up, and just about when they're about to get there, something else comes in. And that's the situation most of our developing countries are, and not just in Africa, but across the region. Having said that, at the EC, at UNECA in Africa, there are certain things that we have started doing in very infants and rudimentary in a sense. We are, for instance, trying to help countries use mobile technology to collect data, and which is away from the normal traditional way of doing things, and that's working very well. We have run 2 pilots now. We're on the second phase of another set of countries. Countries are also running away, rather getting away from a situation of collecting, running sensors, for instance, the traditional manner. They're now using tablets, and we are very much involved in providing the application that are necessary for them to do that. But those are just some of the things. But more recently, we've begun to speak to ONS, the Office of National Statistical Office of UK, who have come up with a data science. And we actually sent a team to UK to sort of understand what this data science is about, because we know one of the countries on the continent, Rwanda, where the big data conference is going to take place, they already thought about it, and they're way above, way ahead of many other countries in terms of what they want to do. So we thought, can all countries on the continent have a data science campus? The answer is no. Perhaps what we need is, can we come up with a regional data science campus? And we work very closely with Rwanda. So that's the discussion that is going on now there. Basically, it's going to be a place that you incubate ideas and come up with solutions, which can then be recommended and contribute to the knowledge of board of knowledge across the statistical system. So it's very much in infancy, and I think that now that we have the global data conference, and also we have this the UN global platform, to me sounds like very close related to the data science campus. So it's how do we work together with this platform so that we can build on it to, provide the necessary inputs that is required. I think I'll end there, and in putting all these challenges that we have in the region and also beyond just the African region, but other areas as well. Thank you very much.
And last but not least, Jumeir.
Thank you, Sylvie. Good morning, everybody. My name is Sumair Sayani, and I lead the Demand Institute, which is a not-for-profit think tank that is jointly run by the Conference Board and Nielsen. I'm also a vice president at Nielsen, so as you can see, I wear 2 hats, and that's why Ronald has asked me to wear those 2 hats today. So I'll start with the not-for-profit hat and talk about the Demand Institute. For us, the questions that we asked ourselves are more around the evolving human need dynamics, and what would it take to be able to better understand those evolving needs. So, for example, questions like, would it be good to be able to predict when and where the next famine is going to hit, or in the next 15 years, how much food India is going to require, or how many housing units Brazil is going to need, or how much energy China will need in those 15 years. So that's what motivated us to challenge ourselves and create some kind of a solution which would be able to address these kind of questions. And so we built a data collaborative called Project 8. 8, basically means 8 billion people who are going to be living, among us in not so distant future, and be able to, start to answer those emerging questions. And we basically created this platform through the partnership between public and private sector. So we had UN Foundation, we had technology companies. We also had, folks like U.S. State Department, Office of Global Food Security, Nielsen and Conference Board, obviously, that helped bring this thing together. The way we started was through using a term that is very commonly used in the private sector world called the lean startup, which basically means you accelerate to a minimum viable product as quickly as possible through an iterative process, getting inputs from stakeholders, which were pretty comprehensive from public sector, private sector, and not-for-profit areas, to be able to see what would work most. What are the most important features that we need, minimum most important features we need to be able to get things moving and get people to use. Now we had a lot of great success of, in the sense of a lot of people came on board. We have got 200 users from different sectors, a lot of data on the platform. But so we had two core concepts when we put this thing together. First, obviously, is bringing the data together, the right data together, but also people together, because it's not just the data that solves the problem, it's also the people who are in the know, who are the experts, who are sitting on the field. So, for example, if you have a challenge in Africa, you need to be talking to people in Africa who understand Africa better than most. So we also wanted this to be a platform, a social platform, kind of woven around data, if you may. And Ronald has asked me to talk about a few challenges that we face as we have kind of gone about building this platform. And I would call out three most important challenges. First is obviously the obvious one, which is data itself. I mean, just because the data is publicly available or there is some data that it does not necessarily mean that it's usable, that it could be analyzed for the purposes that you wanted to use it. And so the biggest challenge that we have seen so far is to have the right data, trusted data, that is not fragmented, that is not so variable that is very difficult to compare across different geographies or different places that you want to mix it to and analyze, and is very difficult to access. So that's the first and most important challenge. The second one is around the adoption of technology and new ways. It's tough. We've grown to working in a certain way, and it's tough to change. But what we are seeing is that there is increasing recognition and there is an increasing interest once the business case, the use case is established. And we have worked on a few of those where we have worked with the World Food Program to predict famine in a couple of African countries and so on and so forth. The other thing, the third thing, obviously, is having a sustainable business model. This has so far been an in-kind donation from a number of different organizations, but obviously, eventually, as is the case with the global platform as well, it needs to find a sustainable operating model going forward. I will now kind of like to transition quickly to my private sector hat and talk a little bit about Nielsen, which is working with one of the task teams on the modernization of consumer price index. And I'll just say what we are doing very quickly and why we are doing. I think that's very important because I think we need to be able to understand how we can build more of such collaborations going forward. So what we are doing is basically we're working with the team, donating data and some capabilities to create the methodologies, the trusted methodologies, which can then be applied, could sit on the platform and can be applied across by different NSIs to be able to modernize consumer price index calculation. And we're also working with the team to see how we can support the capacity building across NSIs to be able to use that methodology, to use that new set of data that Nielsen has and maybe other data sets. Why we are doing it, there's an internal reason and there is an external reason. Internal reason is that because I think, and this is not just us, I think a lot of private sector companies realize that and understand that unless communities improve and their prospects improve, the economic activity is not going to happen, which means that nobody's going to benefit, right? So it's in everybody's interest that we support communities to develop sustainably. And I think that's one of the most important reasons, and what we call out as our mission is to make markets more efficient, which means just that. And the second thing is that the team that we have worked with, sitting here, Sylvie and Ronald, Heather and Iwo. I saw Iwo coming in as well, Mark and others. I mean, it's been phenomenal in the sense that the expertise, the capabilities, the vision, I think is amazing, and very importantly, there is a huge amount of recognition of finding new ways to build these collaborations between the public and private sector. Because I mean, I think I completely agree with what the team believes is that we have to find this newer, non-zero sum ways to collaborate, where it's a win-win way to work together, and that's the only way I think we can move forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Sumer. So you've heard a lot about the platform now. The floor is yours. I'd like to see if you have any questions. I think that we have heard the sustainability of the model. We've heard about the need for agility, but we'd like to see what are your views on this. What might be next steps? We need to present something to the Statistical Commission next March. And so we'd like to hear from you. What did you hear today? Do you have any questions? What do you see as the moving forwards, next steps for us? So if you have any questions, if you could introduce yourself, say where you're coming from so that we're able to record a bit the questions and be able to do the follow-up after. Yeah, Bert.
Thanks, Sylvie. My name is Bert Kroese, Statistics Netherlands. Well, I think it's important to recognize that the use of big data is not a luxury anymore, but that if we want to make good statistics, we have to be involved in it. Society is getting more complex, and it's getting harder and harder to describe that using traditional sources, and also requirements of users are getting more in detail, in timeliness, and the things that only big data can supply. So we have to do these things to stay relevant. Also, other analytical companies use big data, and if they produce numbers which are much faster, we don't do it as this community, we lose our credibility. So we have to engage in that. And having said that, this is a good initiative. I really have to commend the ONS team, specifically Mark, for what he did. If you look at this marketplace, if you look at this system, it's just there, it works, it's really user-friendly, and it brings things together. So that's good. I definitely see a role for the global data sets like the AAS data and the flight data. At the present in Europe, many of these data are in every country themselves, which doesn't make sense. It's a global data set, so treat it global. It's also definitely collaborative workspace. Try to do the analysis together, try to exchange services, try to exchange ideas. And what it can be more, we have to find out the coming years. So I guess the main thing is what is the business model. As long as Mark is around and his team, I'm very convinced that this will stay as good as it is. But how do we sustain that? How do the financing? I think there's a lot of commitment and people who want to work on it. So I'm looking forward, and we want to contribute to thinking about that. Thanks.
Hi, it's Rachel Bevan from UK Department for International Development. I just wondered if you could say a little bit more about the trust element, because you've talked a lot about having trusted data, trusted partners, trusted methodologies, but who decides how which of those are actually trusted? And also I think the other aspect as well is, trusted for what purpose? Clearly data used for different purposes needs to be kind of, have different kind of quality. So if you're using data to actually assign your budget, then you're going to want a much kind of higher quality than you might do if you want to just generally understand the picture. So I just wondered if you could say a bit more about that. Thank you.
Sorry. Yeah. Thank you very much. My name is Ari from BPS Statistik Indonesia. Is it okay? Okay. We are very glad that we can hear information related to the big data. I read moving forward together, I think is very important. I think BPS also would like to contribute in this kind of activity, but we have a problem probably in order to access the available data in the neighborhood, like in my country. Is it possible if, for example, our collaboration here creates some recommendation in order to make the activity for private sector, for example, who provide the data can be give a chance to national statistics to access those data. I think based on the recommendation, it seems to me the government would like to also support that activity in order to make the source, the data, can be utilized by the NSO. Thank you very much.
Yes, hello, my name is Ingolf Böttcher from Price Statistics Department, Statistics Austria. I have one suggestion and one question. One suggestion is about the how to use large new data sets. What is going on often on the international level is that each National Statistical Institute gets somehow some data and does some calculations, and with these large new data sources there are an indefinite amount of options for the statisticians and decisions to take to come up with a statistical product. And what often happens is that people present their results and it's great and that's how it looks like, but there's no comparability. And if you as a platform, if you go ahead and really provide data that can be used as a toolbox for statisticians to apply their method to the data and then actually really do a comparison between the different methods, and then you can say, okay, I do this method and this is with this data getting to this and this result. It's really great, and in the way forward I would definitely suggest you really work on providing these data so that statisticians can learn and compare the treatment of this data. And then the question is to Mr. Sahani from Nielsen. I was wondering, Nielsen also sells scanner data to statistical institutes. So in a way, I see there a little bit of conflict of interest from you, and I wonder how you want to deal with it, because the scanner data that Nielsen has, it's already a product. It's not the raw data. You really process it. It's not big data. It's really structured. It's of very good quality. And what is your strategy? I mean, do you really want to provide this scanner data and then I mean, really helpful would be then actually to provide the raw data as well. You know, that the countries or the statistical institutes then learn how to actually process the data that comes from the retailers and not exactly to process the data that comes from Nielsen, which is a good product, but it's a product which comes at a cost and which usually you would have to pay for. So I see there a little bit conflict of interest for Nielsen to help here the statistical community, kind of making you maybe dependent on Nielsen data because it's already very nice, very nicely structured data. So the question would be, what is your approach, your strategy on the long term to support here the statistical community?
Thank you. Last question, and then we'll go for answers.
Hello, my name's Jonathan Challen. I'm from the OECD in Paris. First, I'd just like to say congratulations. I mean, it's a great job done so far, and definitely looking forward to the next iteration in the life of this platform. For the OECD, I mean, we have around 100 smart data. We call smart data, so making sense of big data projects. For us, the interesting thing of this project would be to where you can pull multiple data sources, techniques, build capacity within, tap into the experts that we already have in our organizations to in the areas of sort of geospatial forecasting, modeling, things like this. This is what we're actually already doing at the OECD. Web scraping, combining that with text mining techniques, things like this. Also connecting with these large digital players, which we know is difficult if we go there as a single entity. So pulling this and capacity to really strengthen the agenda around big data. Not so much a question, but probably a little offering. I think we, from an organization, can definitely contribute to this and be more active with this community. Probably, for us, it would be developing what we call a Smart Data Academy as a regional hub, potentially, in the context of this platform. The aim in the Academy would be to sort of develop, in partnership with academia or an e-learning player such as Coursera, to systematically build capacity in the area for data for policy. Thank you.
So I'll ask Ronald to maybe if you want to address the first question, I can.
Thank you, Sylvie. Thank you also for all the questions. I will make a few quick points. So one this is a global platform, right, with the cloud server infrastructure, which means it can be accessed anywhere. I just want to emphasize that. So this is also from, if it is in Indonesia or if you are in Africa, you access the same platform. You need your browser access and you can use it, right? So for data science initiatives, the platform would be a good opportunity to actually use this for both training and projects. I just wanted to emphasize that point. The point of trust. I think as the reason why we have been emphasizing trust within this business model is that we are the community of official statistics, and so one of the main comparative advantages of this community is the trust public has in data that's coming out. So we've emphasized this maybe as an initial kind of obligation to ourselves, that what we're producing on this platform will be of sufficient quality that we stand behind this, both in the kind of data that we have and the kind of methods that we're going to put out and the kind of learning materials that we're going to do. So the platform can be used for learning around the world, but we would like to do this at high quality level. And I think that's our contribution, or our let's say way of saying that we like to have good quality for whatever is on the platform, because we have a community that has public trust, which we would like to keep also for this platform. My final point is actually two things. One is we've done access to data already early on in the global working group, and I think we have to come back to it, as this is for the question from Indonesia, is that yes, I think we could have talks with global companies on getting data in a way that would be accessible at national level also. For instance, if we have mobile phone companies who operate globally, that we would have some kind of an agreement from the global platform point of view to see that we can attract data and make it more easily accessible. There still will be negotiations at national level. There are national circumstances and national data privacy boards which will have a say on this, but at least from a global level we can initiate talks with the mobile phone companies, for instance. And the final point is on the regional hubs, is that I think the way to look at this is that if we see this global data platform as an institute, there will be a central institute somewhere. Maybe that would be somewhere in the UK with about 100 people working on this for the platform, say. But there could be also regional hubs where people are dedicated also working on the platform. So that I think you have to see as what a regional hub is that there are actually dedicated people in Asia or in Africa who are actually part of the infrastructure of maintaining the platform in attracting data and so forth for the. So that's what I want to say. It's a platform. It's available for everyone globally. Thanks.
Thank you. Mark, do you want to add something in terms of the access for our colleague in Indonesia?
Yeah, so we've for all the services we've developed, we've made sure you can access the services using a web browser. So we test everything with a Chromebook, a $150 Chromebook. So anybody can access the services, the analytic tools, the Earth observation service, the location analytics service, using a $150 Chromebook. We make sure we leave no one behind.
Sumer, do you want to talk about the scanner data?
Sure. Hey, thanks for the question. I think it's good to have that discussion, because these are the very interesting discussions that I think that we are having and we need to have going forward, right? That how do we build these frameworks for collaboration going forward? yes, I mean, it is true that this is Nielsen's bread and butter for the past 90 years. That pays my salary, pays for that suit that my son is wearing as well, pretty nice one. He's 10 years old. This is his first trip. So yes, I mean, we're not going to be able to move away from that. And I think the great thing about this discussion that we're having with the group is that knowing this, right, how do we move forward, right? How can we find those areas of convergence where, it becomes mutually beneficial for all the parties? And I think the way the scanner task team is working, is fairly independent. I think they're looking for best ways to get to where they need to get to. And they're looking at, I think, multiple data sources to be able to get there, right? And to find what would help the global community answer those important questions and move the needle forward, right? I think, so from our part, I think we are right now working with the team, and based on the questions and the requests that we get, if it becomes the situation where that is the data that would be required the most by NSIs, then we can work through those discussions and see how do we enable that going forward. What could be those that collaboration could look like, and there are countries, I know Netherlands is one, and there are others who have gone the other way, who have gone through the route of doing a lot of that work by themselves, going to the source. So I think there are different options available, and it's not going to be one way that's going to be the only solution. Maybe Ronald, you want to talk something about the private sector collaboration?
Just one thing is that so the reason why we like to work with Nielsen also is that they operate in many countries, so we can sort of standardize this kind of methodology that we are developing, and have one way of working with that. It was also for us experimenting with how can we work with private sector. It's a back and forth. It's we're taking small steps, but we'll be moving forward.
Chair prerogative, I'll add a few of my own. So Rachel, when you ask how is trust defined, we haven't figured out everything yet, and we're trying to, and if you look at where the platform was 2 years ago when we started, and even what's happening now, it's been incredible, the progress that has been done. And so you can expect, our deadline is March next year, you can expect we'll figure out a number of things in the next year to continue to move forward. Because we don't have all the answers yet. But so far we're looking, and that's why we were talking about a separate organization. If I'm looking at the specific project, we talked about Nielsen, there was a question about Nielsen. Well, right now Nielsen gave us access to a limited set of data. It's limited set of data, access to a number of set of users, so we can develop methods. We can see what's the method that would work. How could we apply multilateral methods if we had a common data sets we could all use? How can we share codes? And it has happened that Australia, New Zealand, and Canada, and Netherlands, I think, they've worked together to try to say, okay, well, they all did the same test. They eventually developed each independently a code. They agreed, okay, they all give the same results. We have the same data set. This one seems to be the most performing one. Let's start with this one. We've put it on GitHub. Now they're all working with this. Next step will be how we continue to work on this. And so part of this trusted is eventually you have a trusted set of users, and depending on where you are in the process, it may be more restricted access, which is why I talked about zones. When you add the trusted learning, you have a method that has been published that you may want to give it accessible to more trusted users. On certain things, you may want to see, okay, who's the trusted partner. We've been having discussions with the UN sometimes. Do you know that researcher? What would they do? What's the accreditation? So we're trying to figure out how it would be working, but it is expected that there would be some kind of validation, so that I'm not expecting everybody will have access to everything. And we're trying to figure out exactly what's the logistic behind that. But it's trying to have that mechanism where the common purpose is official statistics, the common purpose, and we all have that United Nations principles of official statistics. New Zealand has been doing a survey trying to see how is that applied in specific countries, and we know where some of the challenges and things like that. Knowing we have a common goal gives us a community for which we would want to use the data, and the platform is meant for official statistics, not for commercialization. We're hoping that within the platform, anything that would be developed would be open source, would be accessible to everybody. wouldn't have an intellectual property aspect to this. So we're trying to establish some of the principles under which we're operating. Not all finalized yet, but that's the kind of thinking when we're thinking of the trusted partners. Any other questions? I know that I think we have one last minute. We're about 9:30, which is when it's supposed to be finished. But if somebody has a burning question, I'm willing to entertain one last question.
Maybe just a thought.
Okay.
Yeah. Maybe just a thought on Rachel's question and also your response. I guess the issue of trusted data would that the user will have to determine that. That whether it's trusted data or not. I think the user will have to determine based on the metadata. I'm assuming that the global platform will also include metadata. So metadata should be able to say, give an opportunity for whoever wants to use the data, whether it's trusted or not, and also the partners that are part of it. I think that would be just a thought. I think it would be depend on the.
Yeah, and it's a point well taken. For example, we've been working with some of the UN Environment Group when they're looking at developing some of the SDGs, and we know satellite imagery has been used for fresh water, not quite as good for ice. And in Canada, ice is a bit of something we have to pay attention to, especially in the winter. So the trust and the data source and things like that may depend on some of the countries, and in some cases, actually, even though it's not perfect, it's good enough to help you move the agenda forward. And sometimes you may want to use that as a first benchmark as you are refining things, as within your country you're adjusting to specific context. So it's absolutely. One last question.
Michael Ratcliffe from the U.S. Census Bureau, and just to follow on that comment regarding trust, as we've been building our address list for the 2020 census, we have been using our U.S. Postal Service delivery files as a trusted source, and that gets to the use. We trust them because their job every day is to deliver mail, so they have a business case for having a complete and accurate address list. But our local governments, the 40,000 local governments around the U.S., are the authorities for issuing addresses. So there's two aspects of trust that we've been looking at: who's responsible for creating the data, and who uses the data and has a business case for ensuring that it's accurate and complete. And those two together, then, we're constantly matching those two data sets to each other because each has deficiencies, each has areas where they're better than the other, and then we validate using imagery to find the gaps in both of those trusted data sources.
Thank you for that. Agreed. So without any further ado, I think that it's 9:30 now. One last word from each of the members, or? Session is closed. Thank you.